Hi everyone, welcome back to Soul Care Revolution. In this first episode, we have a beautiful human being, Dr. Marisa Sum. She's a doctor of chiropractic, meaning that she works with the central nervous system. She's also a nutritionist, meaning that she works with the gut-brain health, gut-brain connection. And she's also a doula. She works with moms. She's a mom herself to a beautiful baby boy named Kayo, and she is also owner of Kaname Chiropractic, and she, along with her partner, Dr. Cassie Stansberry. So here, she's also an activist. One of the most biggest parts that I've seen her shine in is being an activist, more particularly for women and children's health rights. She's written research papers. She has visited Palestine itself, and which is a story that we will definitely bring her back on for, because she, unfortunately, we couldn't get around to talking about that in this episode because it could. We're gonna do another one. We gotta do another one. It was a fun talk. So here it is, Dr. Marisa Sum, and please enjoy. Good morning, everyone. This is your future chiropractor, Dr. Soto. Today we have Dr. Marisa Sum, and today we will be talking about so many different beautiful things. But before that, I'd like to welcome you to Soul Care Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And we will be here. We're here out in nature where the trees are grand and our energies are expanded. Welcome, Dr. Marisa Sum. This is a chiropractor who has been my mentor for the past year, and my personal chiropractor for the past year as well. She has taught me so much, and I have learned so many beautiful things from her, and I just could not help but to jumpstart everything that she has done up until this day and broadcast everything that she has to offer. So welcome. Thank you, Dr. Marisa, for being here.
Thank you, Paloma, future Doctora Soto. I'm so excited for you. Well, it's been a pleasure to work with you and to be a mentor with you, and to hold this space with you and witness growth and also be a part of it. So I feel very honored, and thank you for having me on this podcast as well.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, let's get started with the first question. So, my first question for you, Dr. Marisa, is how do you care for your soul?
A lot of time in nature. I work 4 days a week in the office, and so the other days of the week, I'm honestly like, I focus a lot on what I need and what I want to do, and a lot of the time that means being in nature. Coming to this very park that we're sitting in, among these trees, the ocean, rivers, really connecting again to source and to the truth, to remembering neutrality, that this earth really is holds a lot of space for neutrality, and that is healing, that things are not necessarily personal, that everything is just happening, and like there's synchronicity and alignment and change all the time.
That is beautiful. Nature, I believe that nature is so important to us, especially when it comes to learning from each other and learning about the land that we're on and where that land comes from, who were the original people that were here, the guardians of the land. And I learned that a lot while being here in the East Bay, And I know that you're a Bay Area native. And what were some of the things that you were learned while being in this very diverse location?
Yeah, I was born in Castro Valley, grew up in Alameda, went most of my life in Alameda. And Alameda itself is an island in Alameda County in the East Bay. That island itself can be kind of isolationist politically, but socially, my experience growing up was that there was always people. There's a big connection to Oakland, to Berkeley, even to San Francisco. Growing up, a lot of my friends, they honestly like lived in Oakland, but they're attending Alameda schools. And I understood very clearly that once you cross the bridge from Alameda to Oakland, the huge difference in the landscape and in the economic opportunities and the homelessness and the poverty. And so I knew from a very young age, like how diverse my environment was. My father, I would say, played a really big role in me connecting to nature. He, thankfully for him, he made it a priority to always like take me on hikes, take me on runs. My first backpacking trip with him was when I was 18 years old to Mount Whitney. And we backpacked Mount Whitney,
That is so
which
cool.
was amazing.
And we were just talking about Mount Whitney.
Yes. And then Grand Canyon and all kinds of places. But I would say that I thank my mom for making sure I was connected, like ethnically, to diversity. She felt that in Castro Valley back then in the 1990s was not very diverse, and she didn't like that. She wanted her family to be in a more diverse area, which is why we moved to Alameda, where she grew up. And I grew up in a church, in a United Methodist church called Buena Vista United Methodist Church in Alameda, where this church was mainly comprised of Japanese Americans whose ancestors, all our ancestors, had been in the internment camps during World War II, including my grandmother and her family. And being that we all kind of had this, as a church community, we had this sort of understanding of what it's like to be scapegoated or to be on the butt end of a political, I don't know, of blame, of terrorism in the 1940s, even though she was born in Chico and she was an American citizen. And so we all understood this, like in our DNA, in our inherited trauma, what it's like to be taken away, labeled something bad by your race, by the way you look, and taken away from their homes into a concentration camp, and then became homeless because their homes were absorbed by the government or taken, or burnt down, and be left with nothing, because of outer wars happening between Japan and the U.S., and which really boils down to economy and capitalism, even, to be honest. So we understood that deeply. And so my pastor made sure that we were very social justice oriented. He would always make sure that we understood the strife of other humans in the world, of the underdog in a situation, of the voiceless, of the people who may not be in mainstream media. And so with that, through that church community, they really opened my eyes a lot to everything that's really right outside my doorstep in Oakland, in Berkeley, the social injustices among that, the racial conversation, that there is racial injustice in this country, and what this country is doing to impact other communities around the world, whether it be in the Philippines, the Muslims being persecuted in the Philippines, to the Guatemalans and Salvadorian, the civil wars that have happened there, and the US's financial hand in them, to Palestine and understanding what it's like to be a Palestinian person and the um, political constructs that they're up against. Um, Again, outside of what we hear on mainstream media, but like really hearing from the people. And so our community would connect with, let's see, we have a sister community in West Bank, Palestine, called Wadi Fukin, where we were named like we're sister cities, and they are a beehive and honey community. That's their main source of income, and so we would like help sell their honey here in Alameda through our church. We would raise awareness. We would host people from that community to educate folks here, and they would do trips to, my church community would do trips to Wadi Fukin in Palestine to witness the experience of their lives. And so my church community was like very, very vibrant, very full of like global awareness. And my mom really wanted me to make sure, she wanted to make sure that I was connected to that. And so I'm thankful for all of them for helping me be that. So it's definitely that I was here in the East Bay growing up, also like being connected to grassroots community work.
That's a beautiful journey, and like I can only imagine like the jumpstart, the anger and all of that it built up, and just accelerated everything in you to pursue something, to be able to give back. And having a strong background with healing and nurturing different communities. I see that in your work, and it comes out so beautifully with a variety of different communities, and I know that you have mentored a lot of people, so like the wealth of that is so appreciated. And just it just shows the humanness that we can offer to each other. And so far it's beautiful, and I'm really excited to see the multitudes of communities that you will continue to help heal.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now going into how that is has been unraveling for you when it comes to what you decided, how you decided to help heal these communities, which is chiropractic. So I wanted to ask you about how that came about in your. I wanted to ask you how that came about in your journey, and like how you saw that this is what can help people, bring people together.
Thank you for that question. I would say it was not like crystal clear in the beginning. Through the study, through what I was learning, just in my like general community, like that was occurring, and then also at the same time, my dad's family is from China, and my mom's family originated from Japan, and I was very blessed to grow up with both sets of grandparents, like with me all the time, and we would regularly have big family dinners, and my Japanese and Chinese grandparents would both always say, like literally every time I saw them, they would tell me, your health is wealth. Like, your health is number one. They'd always say that. Your health is number one. Health is number one. Without your health, without your body, without your well-being, you're done. You won't have anything. You don't get to travel. You don't get to have kids. You don't do nothing. So your health is it. And they would always tell me this all the time. They would tell me about vegetables and like what vegetables are good for what, like what, parts of your body and all these things. And it just was completely second nature in our family to understand that we need to take care of this physical vessel. And I, over time, I think subconsciously, like started really putting everything together to notice that, like, it's like it was an ancient practice, or it's ancestral, and it's from my family's like cultural regions to be so connected to our physical body, our health, which really connects to nature again, because we eat vegetables. We have to consume. We have to take in nutrients and stay active and aware and connected in that sense. So that was always in the background for me. The church community, they actually, through my church community, I got to go to New York City um, and learn about the health inequities amongst inner city populations. So, for example, noticing how like people of African American descent have a shorter expected lifespan than of like Caucasian descent, just because of like the environmental factors that they're subjected to, whether it be not enough access to healthcare, to um, not enough access to nutrient dense supermarkets, to socially being like stressed in a stressed state all the time because they're being accused by the just racism and like being looked at in a bad way, which gives off like bad vibes, and people can tell, and it causes stress, which causes disease. So from an early age for me, I actually understood I needed to go into healthcare. When I was 13 years old, I was like, oh, no, soda pop, that's not good for me, makes me feel bad, and I can't eat fast food anymore. And I understood racial inequities and healthcare systems, and that there are systems, and the systems are not necessarily all fair to all people, not because the system itself is set up unfairly, but that the application of the systems by humans with human biases can come out unfair. Um, I understood that I wanted to increase access to healthcare for people from a very young age. Now, figuring out how to do that was really the more like challenging part for me. I went to UC Davis, got my Bachelor's of Science in Nutrition, because I understood food is health, is your life, and wellness. I wanted to help heal people through food. Um, I realized by the end of my education at UC Davis that that's not what I learned. That at Davis, I actually learned more about how to treat people who are already sick, how to treat people who already have type 2 diabetes and hypertension, burn victims, things of that nature, but not really to keep people well and healthy. And that's really what I was more interested in, how to keep people well and healthy, how to heal and stay healed for quality of life. Um, and so from there, I ditched the world of dietetics. That wasn't feeling like the right direction anymore, and went into public health. And so I worked in the California Department of Education in the nutrition division to help Michelle Obama with her project to put free lunches into schools through California. And so that was really cool to be a part of that project. I also worked in San Francisco at the public health department in occupational safety and health. Um, and those were amazing experiences for me, to work with legislation and public policy to affect inner cities or to affect food deserts and to make big change, which is really what I'm interested in, big change. However, I noticed that there was always some kind of like lock and bind to um, like where the money is at, or like how far we can really push like a healthy program, because it might not be accepted by the board. or something like that. So I always felt sort of limited. Also, I noticed that I just need to be working with people one on one. I need to be working with my hands, on my feet, and not at a computer at a desk. That was also just like a very real realization for me. So then I started considering nursing or physical therapy or PA or NP, something like that. And so I was studying and going to school, continuing my studies and applying to those schools. Finally, I was at that time also volunteering at the Highland Hospital Emergency Department, and I loved it. Um, I absolutely loved the fast pace, and high intensity environment of like do or die. Like this person, it's Highland Hospital is like Oakland County Hospital. So if you can imagine Oakland, California County Hospital, they get a gunshot wound at least once a day. Um, like people who are found half dead in their homes from diabetic coma constantly because they didn't have the money themselves to take the bus to the hospital to get the diabetes medication refilled. Just like really intense situations all the time. Um, Alcohol overdose, like all kinds of things. Um, and honestly, I loved it. I loved being of service. I loved like being put on the spot to do what needs to be done for these people. Um, but I saw through the systems at hand. First of all, it's an emergency room, so that is tertiary care. It's end of the line care. It's like when people are about to die type of care, and you just keep them alive. Now, statistics is that United States healthcare system is number one in the world for the emergency room. In the ER, the US, you can't beat the US. We will keep you alive. We have all the machines, the medications, everything needed to keep people alive. You get your leg cut off, whatever, you're gonna stay alive. However, we are like number 38, like really low out of all of the quote developed nations in the world on wellness care, on other parts of the hospital. Like, for example, obstetrics. Um, Other parts of the hospital, really low. ER, number one, which I think tells where the priorities are at in the United States healthcare system. It's more of like tackling, quote, tackling or attacking health issues, disease from an emergency standpoint. And like uh, keeping someone alive, but the quality of the life might not be that great. But they're alive. They just might be connected to machines or on a bunch of drugs, right? To manage the heart through blood pressure and all these things. I was quickly like seeing how so many ER staff are burnt out. They're jaded, they get burnt out because it's just like endless. And I realized this isn't for me. Like, this is not really what I want to do because I want to keep people healthy, not just alive. And so at that point, I felt like I had exhausted all of my options that I knew of. And I went on a hike with my dad and I asked him, I was like, Dad, what do I do? Like, I just want to help people, but I want to do it in a way that I believe in. And he was like, oh, well, why not chiropractic? And I was like, oh, oh yeah, that. Now, my dad, he is a chiropractor. He's been a chiropractor for 35 years. I grew up with him as a chiropractor. I just never thought of it for myself. And until that moment. And then I was like, oh, and then he's like, yeah, one of the best chiropractic schools in the whole country, in the whole world, is just right next door to us in Hayward. And I was just honestly in disbelief. But I went and I heard what they had to say at the school, and it made sense. It made physiological sense what they're talking about with the nervous system and the spinal cord being the central nervous system is the beginning of life. The brain controls everything in the body, and it sends signals out through the spinal cord to the rest of the body, coordinating things like blood pressure, um, coordinating the organs to pump out insulin, coordinating uterus for menstruation, coordinating everything in the body, respiration, everything. And so weakness, strength, movement, relaxation, it's all by the nervous system. So I kept showing up. I kept going to school, and um, day by day realizing that they were saying the truth of how this body really works. And I had my education from UC Davis that I got to see, use everything through, see them as a lens through. And yeah, it's just basic physiological education, or science used at a doctorate level, so that we can actually use this truth of how the body functions to help people heal and get back to how the body is supposed to function, naturally, without medication, without side effects. And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. And so I didn't think of it. There was no way I could have thought of it. It really came to me. I really beat it all the way around the bush. All the way around. I tried everything out really fast, and then came back to home. Came back home to the body.
Yeah.
And that life doesn't have to be so complicated. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it can be quite simple. Of taking care of ourselves. Considering checking in with, as Erica Badu said in one of her interviews, checking in with Dr. Sun, Dr. Nutrition, Dr. Food, Dr. Exercise, Dr. Air, and I'm going to add Dr. Alignment, Posture, right? So that's it. And so there is no deeper truth than that. I always knew that nutrition science is important, and food and what you eat is really important. Nourishment. Also, though, I noticed through my education at UC Davis, through clinical nutrition, that you can give healthy food to different people. They might not all respond the same. Like some people, they hold the weight more than other people do. So that has to do with potentially hormones, which has potentially something to do with their stress, cortisol running through their body, which has potentially something to do with their nervous system, whether they're in a sympathetic or parasympathetic state, impacting their organ function. It's so much more than just food. And so for me, when I realized what chiropractic really is, that it's about healing the earth of the body, like la tierra, tilling the soil, making sure that the soil is right, that our nervous system is right, is working, so that then we can give it the nutrients and the water, the nourishment, so that it'll actually be able to absorb and give life from there. When I realized that the nervous system was the other part that was missing from the nutrition aspect, I was like, oh, perfect. That's it. This is it. This is great. And then once you have your nervous system, mobility, biomechanics, neurology in better alignment, and you're nourishing properly, boom, then you can talk about exercise and movement safely and effectively to correct potentially metabolic issues, or prevent those issues. Then it's the whole picture. But you first need your spine. That's the truth. It's the midline of each of us. And I like to say that the answers are right behind us.
That's a good one. Literally.
Literally, it's right there. It's our hard wiring. Whenever people point to their heart or to their soul, and they point inwards, what do you think is in there? it's there. It's in here. Yeah.
Yes.
And so then from there, I feel like chiropractic has helped enliven me even more to like bring so many parts of myself together, like to feel more whole myself in terms of like holism, that my body and my spirit are one. That if something is off with my body, I'm probably going to feel it like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, also like a block or negative self-talk or something like that, which also means that through the body there can be the healing of those same aspects. They don't have to be separate, which I feel is a big problem in the medical community at this time, or has been for decades, where they just compartmentalize people and parts. Where it's like, oh, your leg is hurting. Let's only put an injection in the nerve that goes to your leg. Or patch, like your heart, your chest hurts. Well, let's look at the heart. But like also there are nerves that go around the chest wall from the back around the chest, which might look like the heart, but it's actually 50% of angina, which is chest pain, is not cardiovascular related, which means it has to be the rib cage wall, right? And that's neurological. So like checking someone only for their cardiovascular system when they come in for chest pain is missing 50% of the potential cause. So again, like with chiropractic, to me, because the central nervous system applies to the entire body, it really looks at the person wholly. And
it's a very practical solution to something so simple with what you just said, with what the science is showing. And especially about like 50% of angina, one might not know that people mainly would just take like an aspirin or like something just to make it go away, quote unquote, when it actually hasn't gone away. Maybe like temporarily, but that's not what we want. We want wellness. We want to be well and be able to do all the things like go out with the kids and play tag or something and hide and go seek, and be able to be in nature for as long as you want without any trouble that or worry in the back of your head that the pain is going to come back.
yes, right. And all those medications have side effects, which side effects are really just the effects of the drug, but it's just like not the desired marketable effects, to be clear. So, which can lead to like liver and kidney toxicity, right?
Yeah.
Over time, if it's continued.
Well, thank you so much, Doctora Marisa. That was a beautiful introduction. And people, this is Doctora Marisa Sum. She has so much to offer. This was just a little snippet of that because she has a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of the soul, a wealth of just her entire existence. Thank you so much, Doctora Marisa, for being on Soul Care podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.